Hello everybody and welcome to episode 60 of Competitive Magic with the Carnies. I'm your host from Italy, Andrea Mengucci, and joining me we have Anthony Lee from Australia.
Hola.
We do not have with us Javier Dominguez from Spain. Anthony, did he give an official explanation?
We actually had planned to have Javier today, but he ate far too much for Thanksgiving. He ate an entire family-sized paella, fell asleep, and he did not wake up in time to join us on this podcast, so we're just going to go ahead without him, because that's really on him. So, no Javier today, I'm afraid.
All right, it's time to talk about some of the cultural differences. So we in Italy, and I'm assuming in Spain as well, do not celebrate Thanksgiving. But what about in Australia? Do you?
We do actually, yeah. And we get gifts delivered by the Thanksgiving koala.
Koala, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
later it's gonna be a kangaroo in Christmas.
Mm-hmm. We've got lots of animals.
Right.
Very friendly.
Yeah. That is true indeed. Okay then. All right, Anthony. We have, of course, some competitive magic to talk about here on the Competitive Magic with the Carnies podcast. But first, I wanted to shout out 3 subscribers to our Patreon. They are Noah, Nano, and Kyle. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, hope you are enjoying the Discord chatting that is going on right now.
Yeah.
Let's get into the what happened last weekend. So we had 3 more regional championship. Now, if I understood it correctly, only the American one is missed, and we have a full roster of qualified players.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's gonna be Pioneer PT. So let's start with the Japan one, which was actually the first one that came out for time zone purposes, and it was so surprising because the top 2 decks with 39 copies and then 30, so overall a very large portion of the field was the new Discover combo that we talked about last week, whether it would be breaking the format or not. Well, turns out it did not break it. In fact, maybe the players who played it got broken. I don't know how to say it.
Yep, that's right. That's how you'd say it. I think they'd agree.
So we had 39 players on Quintorius combo and 30 people on the Geological Appraiser combo, and they had a pretty tremendous win rate. 36% for the Quintorius combo, 48% for the Geological Appraiser. Of course, some of them still managed to break through, and actually the first one is this Motohiko Nakao with the Geological Appraiser combo, which is the 4 mana one, so the slightly faster one. But yeah, in the end, it was Kenta Masukado on John Transmogrify who got the best, which is another deck that, kind of new, right? Have you ever tested this deck before?
Yeah, only a little bit. Maybe not this version, but, we looked at Transmogrified decks before, but they definitely weren't anything close to a central part of Pioneer, right? Like, absolutely nobody would have guessed John Transmogrify would be in the top 8 of a regional championship this weekend, let alone win it. So this is really impressive. It's pretty cool as well that everybody was freaking out about these Discover combo decks, and they did poorly. And not only did they do poorly, a completely different combo deck came out of left field to win the event. So that's really awesome to see.
Yeah, remember testing a lot the blue-red creativity. Some other people were playing the Grixis Transmogrify, and all of us were just putting into play Atraxa. This deck does the same. It's also very interesting to see Torch the Tower over Fatal Push because of the Geological Appraiser combo deck that tends to win with this 4 mana 3/2. You want to have you'd rather have Torch the Tower than Fatal Push.
Yeah, it's also because it breaks up the Quintorius combo as well, because you can hit Planeswalkers with it, which Push obviously can't do. So that's why Torch is much preferred over Push for that reason.
That is very true. So the Quintorius Planeswalker -3 you discover, and when the Spark Double is on the stack, you kill Quintorius, and yeah, they have to, copy something else or nothing even.
Yep, and we
Yeah,
see
that is.
we see Torch the Tower in the regular Rakdos mid-range decks as well. Like Shota Yasuoka's list has Torch the Tower too. So I think this was pretty common in Japan, I imagine, because Shota also said ahead of time he was going to put Torch in Black Red. So you see this.
Shota also
updated
played.
version.
Shota also played Bitter Triumph, which is another new card. It costs 1 and a black, instant, as an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card or pay 3 life, and you can destroy a creature or a planeswalker. So this is able to stop both combo decks. That's cool. I know, I haven't expected that. Ooh, I see Nami also in the 22nd place.
Does he have some torches around?
Yes, indeed.
No, but he does have the Bitter Triumph, and he has the end.
He has a Bitter Triumph.
Another way.
All right, and in the final of this event was Azorius Control by Yuya Ozukawa, and Azorius Control had actually the best win rate in the Japanese RC, and we see also a lot of new cards here. We see 4 copies of Get Lost. That is the new. I never remembered that name.
Fateful Absence.
Removal spell for 2 mana that. Yeah, the new Fateful Absence that I think we talked about it on the podcast, how, Teferi plays very well with that. And so 4 copies of that one here in this deck that just wins with Wandering Emperor, Shark Typhoon, and of course the Teferi, Hero of Luminaria. I see a new card in the Cyber as well. What is this? Okay, so Futsil's Flanker. This is a 3 mana card from the latest set, and it's in the Cyber in 3 copies. It has Flash. And when it enters the battlefield, you choose 1. You put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature that left the battlefield this turn. So I guess that one is not the reason why it's here. And then you gain 2 life and scry 2, or you exile target's player graveyard. So it's played as a Kalios, like the 3 mana, just a way to remove the graveyard of Izzet Phoenix, basically.
Yep, it's one side, and having Flash is very good as well. I think like it lets you react more easily. I think like some of the other pieces like Rest in Peace can be a little more awkward, but I think Kutsil's Flanker seems like it might be particularly good, especially if you're going to be able to answer everything. Like a 3/1 is probably actually a threat post board, right? Because it's not like they're going to have answers to creatures in their deck post board, or at least very few of them. So I could see that being particularly good.
Yeah, Yuya does not play any Blaze-Lair Angel or other creatures, so that is your only creature. Remember, these events are open deck list, so that is also okay. There's also Greasefang. You can also exile the graveyard of the Greasefang player. Sure. I also see 3 copies of Summary Dismissal. Why would you say? What's the reason why you think?
So the reason for Summary Dismissal, I think, is because the existence of the Quintorius deck means there's a lot more Thought Distortions going around. So their plan against Blue White Control is to resolve Thought Distortion. So Blue White needs some way to not lose to that card. So he's picked Summary Dismissal. He can and that's also the Narcissus Reversal. Yes. Yeah,
there's 3 Summary Dismissal and 2 Narcissus Reversal.
Well, he really made up his mind.
That's very, very much ready for that. Oh, also, now that I think about it, Chandra, the new Chandra as well. Sorry, not new. Chandra Awakened Inferno.
Yep, or Dragon or Dromoka.
Or Dragon or Dromoka. Yeah, all of these uncountable spells cannot beat the 4-mana exile. Everything on the stack.
Yeah, Hosokawa was ready, and I mean, I think if you look at, I don't know if you can see his matchups easily from this page, but he feasted on Geoform this tournament, if I recall correctly. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, at the beginning of his tournament.
Yeah, he played 4, 5, 6
single
times.
Game. Yeah, he played the matchup 6 times and never lost a single game.
Naturally, yeah.
Impressive. There's a lot more combo decks, by the way. The Pioneer format is definitely a combo-oriented format. There's also the Rona Luca combo, which I believe was topped in the quarterfinals by Yuya. This is the deck that Samuele Stratti brought in the Arcelil. I believe he's not playing with Yorion, so this is just 60 cards. But yeah, very similar. Like the goal of this deck is just to have elves and then look at them into Atraxa, and you also have the combo with Retraction Helix, Rona.
Yeah, it's got to be tough against Supreme Verdict decks to play this deck. Although I do see a new card in Squirming Emergence, maybe that's good, but yeah, I assume it's going to be very difficult against blue-white decks. It's interesting because...
What's the card you mentioned?
Squirming Emergence, it's a reanimation spell from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It's the
Squirming Emergence. Okay, one black green, and you return to the battlefield target non-land permanent in your graveyard. Okay.
So maybe you can try to grind
So
through a
just a
Wrath this
reanimation.
way, or like makes it maybe easier to stick a Planeswalker. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
we also see an additional combo deck. Maybe not in the Japanese one, but it came in the final in South America, which is the Amalia combo. This is another combo deck brought you by Lost Caverns of Ixtlan, which is brought so many combo decks
It's
to the
pretty sweet.
format. Yeah,
Oh.
so the combo is between we've mentioned this
Yep.
deck basically when we did the previous season. The combo is Lunark Veteran, Wildgrowth Walker, and Amalia Benavides. This is the 1 white, 1 black, 2/2 ward, 3 life. When you gain life, it explores, and then you destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. So what happens is that you can get a turn how much? Turn 3, 20/20 that
Sure.
rats everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also okay.
There's
Right.
return the card here that's featured that is sort of newish is Return to the Ranks. That's probably a card that wasn't on everybody's radar, but that makes it a lot easier for you to go off through interaction. But
Okay, so return to the ranks X white sorcery convoke, and you reanimate 2 creatures. Oh, sorry, X creatures with mana value 2 or less.
Yeah, so you can get the whole
Whoa,
combo.
nice.
That would
You
probably
get
help
the
a
whole
lot
deck
against
actually.
sweepers. Yeah,
There's not a single creature that costs more than 2 in this deck.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? They have a very specific goal. But for me, one of the most impressive innovations I saw in the Amalia combo was from the Japanese RC. So some of the Japanese lists, I think if you look for Haruki Yusui, I don't know if anyone else played it. Yep, so that Amalia
Okay,
combo
Haruki
is this.
Uzui. Yes.
I love the
Was-
claim to fame.
was-
That's so smart. So what happens is when you go off and you explore until your Amalia hits 20, right? You get to mill a bunch of cards, right, as you explore. So if you get to bin a copy of Fame, you can give your Amalia haste, so you don't even have to untap with it to be able to attack straight away for 20. And the claim side can,
Nice.
can
Yeah, we
return
were
whenever
talking
it gets killed.
about we were talking about the Maximus Velocity, but I guess this one's
Yeah, this
much
one's
better.
perfect, right? Yeah, because it's also like a real card on the other side. This is great innovation to me. I love this version of the deck. I think if someone was interested in Amalia combo, I'd probably recommend this one.
I was. This reminds me the in Modern you used to have the Vizier of Remedies plus Devoted Druid combo, which is like similarly to this deck a 2-card combo that you need to untap with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you also had the reanimation spell, the Pure Action Black one.
Yes, Postmortem Lunge.
This
yes.
is yeah. So yeah, this deck reminds me of that one. I have a question. Maybe this is like a ruling question that I would have asked you in the Carnies Discord normally. So Amalia says, then destroy all other creature if its power is exactly 20. But what happens if you start the combo again after Amalia is bigger than 20?
No, then it's not exactly 20, is it? So it won't kill the other creatures.
Yeah, but you just say that you don't want to do this anymore?
Oh, no. I believe you'll end up getting a draw, so don't.
No, really?
Yeah, because if you can't break the loop, then it draws, right? Unless you can take an action that stops it, but, you can't just not do it.
Okay, wow, interesting.
Well,
I was wondering what would happen.
Just don't do that. Just attack him for 20.
I know, but let's say there's some problems with that. Yeah, that's cool. So you have another new card is Senate Scout. That is the 1/1 1/1 that explores. You have Trelasara. So yeah, definitely very much basically like just a new deck once again in Pioneer. Pioneer keeps on evolving, and in this set it was all about new combos.
Yeah, the new set, I don't know, it was a lot more broadly impactful than we could possibly have expected, right? I mean, I don't think there's any one thing that's like overwhelmingly impactful. Like there's not like a single card that's transforming everything, but there's just lots of like new additions, I think.
Yeah,
the Warden, yeah.
In second place, there is another quote-unquote combo deck, which is the Boros Convoke deck, that is playing the Warden of the Inner Sky, which works well with Throbbing Inspector, Voldaren Epicure, and so on. We talked about this on the previous season as well. I would say that yeah, definitely lots of innovations. One card that I haven't seen at all is Cavern of Souls.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that
They
that card has some pretty big deck building constraints. And I
yeah
think you need it as
the
a fixer because
yeah
just no one's playing counterspells, and counterspells.
mm,
I mean, that was before this time, before the current weekend, where of course Blue White surged. But before this weekend, Blue White was not very much to be seen, and no one was playing counterspells. And even when they do have counterspells, they tend not to be very good against the creature decks in the first place, right? Like even if they didn't have Cavern, the counterspells tend to be as expensive or more expensive than the threats they're countering anyway, so they're not too exciting. But yeah, like I don't know where
yeah
would you put Cavern of Souls in any of these decks? You know, it's kind of
yeah. No, I mean we're talking about like spirits, but I see a spirits deck in top 16 in Canada that has one Cavern of Souls, so it's not even that good there. And the humans deck are nowhere to be seen. But another very big innovations that happened in Canada was the rise of the Phoenix deck with
mm-hmm.
4 Phoenix deck in the top 4, and eventually Ha Fam winning the whole thing with
That's a different
Grixis
Grixis
Phoenix.
deck,
But
huh? That's very
it's
different.
basically just yeah, I say Grixis, but it's like only playing red for Arclight Phoenix, which
So it's really blue
ideally
black
you don't
Phoenix.
spend mana for.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it has a new card, which is Bitter Triumph. This is like a way to play Lightning Axe
Mm-hmm.
that also kills a Planeswalker.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah, just Black Lightning Axe like really increases the different ways you can play this deck, I suppose, and this way you get to play Thoughtseize, which might have been important if they expected a lot of combo decks, which would make sense going into this weekend, right?
Yeah, this is the first time that I read the name Monogreen Devotion in 9th place. It was
It was not
really
a good time for Mono
no.
Green. Yeah, they really got a slogging. I'm guessing that it was
Yeah,
also much less popular because people were afraid of playing it into Quintorius and Appraiser. Like it's really not very good against the Appraiser deck because if you don't interact
yeah.
with them or can't even threaten interaction, they can just go off on you super easily.
I was curious to see this player's pairings, and they only got paired against Geologic Appraiser once, and
You did
they
one.
won
That's
though,
nice.
so
But yeah,
maybe it's not as bad as as it looks.
perhaps not.
But yeah,
It's huge. Like Phoenix is. I mean, look, with Phoenix's performance, I'm sure all of the talking heads that were clamoring for, a quick ban on Quintorius or whatever. I'm sure everybody will want pieces of the puzzle gone on December 4. So,
yeah,
looking forward to
I
that.
feel like Pioneer is just yeah. I mean, I understand. Like, Pioneer just you cannot go for any bans. Like this is
Yeah,
just the most balanced formats for so many months that it would be
it
unbelievable
just changes so fast as
to go
well.
for
I'm really impressed by that.
any form.
People adapt really
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, and also just new cards continuously impact. Like that's the thing with new sets, even in modern, of course, new sets impact. But like for example, in modern, you have like 2 or 3 cards make an impact in every set. But when in Pioneer, maybe even more than 10.
But yeah, I think we should. I mean, we're also looking a little into why Phoenix did so well. I guess I think a big part of it was that Phoenix is very well. Like you can build Phoenix to be good against these particular combo decks. Phoenix hasn't been good against combo decks in general. Like I would really not want to play Phoenix against Lotus Field, for example. But the way that the Appraiser decks and Quintorius, the way the Discover combo decks impact the format, is to kind of subsume those, right? Like people are more afraid to play decks like Mono Green or Lotus and play more decks like, well, those new decks, which is advantageous for Phoenix because Phoenix is quite good at interacting with those, I think. At least Appraiser it's very good at dealing with, and you can certainly build it to be decent against Quintorius. So I think that's probably a big part of why it did so well this weekend, other than the fact that, it was already a good deck, right? Like, there was a new threat, and the deck that was one of the stronger ones already that was best equipped to deal with it succeeded very impressively. I mean, that's they had 4 out of the top 4, right? So, and another one in
Yeah.
the top 8.
Yeah, I'm looking at Max Dor, who finished first in Swiss, and he was playing the version that got popularized in the European RC with 4 Picklock Prankster and 4 Otherworldly Gaze. That gives the deck so much consistency, and then of course you only have Treasure Cruise. You don't have any more the take an extra turn, copy it way of trying to win the game, basically.
Sure. I mean, I don't think those things are. I don't know if they're necessarily connected. Like, you could play the combo if you wanted to, right? They just didn't want to.
Yeah. In the sideboard, there's 4 copies of Crackling Drake as a way to beat the Rakdos mid-range decks.
Yep, that works very well.
Control decks as well. This is definitely an interesting list, but yeah, no. Yeah, Pioneer, it's gonna, like, before the PT, there's a new set, so we've seen how much it changed with this set, so we can only assume that the new set called Karlov...
Murders at Karlov Manor.
Karlov Manor.
Murders at Karlov Manor, and apparently the PT,
okay.
much to my disappointment, is PT Karlov and not PT Murders, but, fine. It's PT, yeah. Murders at Karlov Manor is the full name.
Karlov. Yeah, so the format's gonna change again, and yeah, this is gonna be interesting. There is, again, the American RC in a couple of weeks.
That'll be exciting too, right? Because this set of RCs was completely dominated by people talking and thinking about Appraiser and Quintorius, right? And there was a little bit of thought about things like Amalia or Warden of the Inner Sky and how that improved Convoke or whatever. But everyone was thinking about Discover Combo. So now we've seen where that fits into Pioneer as a whole, right? Which seems to me like it's just another part of the ecosystem. Like, to me, it's in the same sort of range and area as Greasefang. Now we see how it fits. Now I want to see where people go next with that. And I think the US RC is going to be huge for that as well. So I'm really interested to see what happens with that. Like, will people figure out how to break the Appraiser deck? Maybe the deck is broken, but we just haven't found it yet. Because it's possible with such a powerful effect. Maybe the deck just has some other effect on the metagame that we're yet to see. So, well, let's see it. And I guess this might also have been a lesson to a lot of people to not jump to conclusions too quickly.
Yeah, most of the Appraiser lists that did well, I believe, were playing Leyline Binding as an additional removal spells.
Sure, I mean, I've seen some options.
Of them. Yeah. Yes, it won. Appraiser won the event in South America, and
nice.
The list is very similar to the one that JMM played in the Mox showcase. One of the things I wanted to mention was as well the complete absence of Lotus Field combo, which used to dominate every single RC for the whole year. I remember Karsten putting the combined win rates of the RC prior to this weekend, and Lotus Field was the best deck, but it did very poorly now with the Amalia combo, the Appraiser combo, Boros Convoke, Boros Heroic, like all decks that try to win the game, and even Quintorius, all decks that try to win the game before Lotus Field can win the game.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
there is another Lotus Field deck, but it is the blue-white control version, so you have counter spells.
Are you aware that this is perhaps one of the strongest decks in Pioneer, but hindered by its complexity / difficulty? Because a single mistake with lands can cost you the game. It will be an instant loss, I should say. Are you aware of that fact, Mengu?
Yeah, that is... I mean, I believe that. Something very similar with Blue-Red Murktide that I feel. So... I very much sympathize with that sentiment.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, I have to be. You're a contrarian on anything, so. No, I'm joking. No, yeah, this is definitely a very difficult game, Magic the Gathering, and anytime you make a misplay, you will lose. No, that's not necessarily true, but yeah, this is the running joke of the week.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about this deck. I mean, I think it probably plays in I think it succeeds for similar reasons to the regular blue-white deck. So,
oh, look at that! I didn't know. There's 4 copies of Sunken Citadel in the deck.
Oh yeah, I'm positive this is a trap, but I don't know.
Oh, you are positive this is a trap? Okay, that's an interesting thing because I've seen this card in Mono Black Coffers, which is a deck also near to my heart in Modern, and I haven't tried this yet. So it's a top land that you choose a color, you get mana from that color, and you can tap it to a 2 mana of the chosen color only to activate abilities of lands. So something like Urza's Saga, Cabal Coffers, Field of Ruin, or in this case, Thespian Stage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get it. Like, like the whole point of those decks is that they don't need to be fast, that they have extreme inevitability, right? So why are we playing cards that speed up what we do? I think because it's not free to do so. I think adding more tap lands to this deck is very costly. You just need to survive, buy time to do what you're gonna do, and then you're good. You know, like you already have enough of NF clan. Sorry.
Does it reduce the mana for Iganjo and Otawara as well?
Yeah. Because they're land sources, yes.
Land sources.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, then you have a lot of those. You also have the castles, so you actually come up with...
Yeah, it does things, but I think those they're not things that are especially valuable in the context of what the whole deck is trying to do. Because I think if you get to the point where like you're activating those lands, you're probably in a pretty good spot anyway, right? Like the Lotus Field deck is like this is good because it just doesn't run out of action. Right? Like
yeah, but I feel like the extra mana here and there that you can like play a thing and also activate your creature land or do some small things like that. Yeah, I'm thinking about in the concept of mono black offers in Modern, where this card showed up in the Energy Finalist deck list. Wow. And I was thinking about maybe you don't want to play a tap land. I guess we can bridge into that right now.
Okay, so are we traveling to the world of Modern now?
No, I mean I'm just saying that the one mana that you spend every turn of the game, every time you tap this Sunken Citadel, it really adds up at the end. Like
that's more true for coffers though, right? Like you actually will spend all your mana every time. I don't think that's true for a deck like Lotus Field.
At least let me see if the Japanese lists also have it. It doesn't look like they do, so it was just a South American list. But yeah, I mean, it's again, this was just the first weekend you got to play with the new cards, so maybe the second weekend, but
we'll see.
Yeah, so still new.
Oh, Strict Proctor, that's also very nice. That's also a great tool against the Discover combo decks. So again, that makes sense. Everything is in the context of the big combos this weekend.
That is true. Strict Proctor. I mean, this card used to be played in Ozor's Lotus Field.
Yeah. That's why it's like totally plausible.
At least on Arena.
Like, I think you didn't want to go to like massive extremes to try to fight these combo decks. You just take something that just pick the things out of the ones that already existed that work well, and maybe adjust a little bit, right? Like going back to playing Strict Proctor in a deck that had played it before and stopped playing it is less out there than adding it to a deck that just wasn't interested in that card at all before. So that kind of conservative approach, makes sense to me, especially with a limited amount of time to adapt.
Let's travel now to the modern format, as you said, because me and you have been talked a lot about coffers lately. So I guess we could kind of share with the listeners our brainstorming around this deck. So I have an event in 2 weeks that is the LMS Barcelona. Unfortunately, I won't be home basically because tomorrow I'll leave for vacation. So I wanted to kind of like come up with a deck and see if it was good enough. And I really like mono black coffers, although with the addition of Tishana's Tidebinder in so many decks, that card has just been a beating for me. Like
really,
like stopping a key activation of the ring, and then the protection of the ring. I mean, and then untapping and attacking. It's just sometimes it's just a lot of damage, and ring was really that's one of the things why I believe when we were talking you were very low on the March of the Worldly Light. I actually today played the deck again and went back up to 4 because that's a card that you need because you just lose so much life randomly, and even with the Signing Blood technology that you added, which by the way was super cool. I got to win, I counted them all, 4 games by targeting my opponent, but only one of those was actually like I would have lost if the Signing Blood was not a burn spell.
That's all good. I mean, it's kind of free, so why not?
Yeah, it is. It is free. Reprieve was honestly the reason why I wanted to go white. Splash white. I think the Leyline Binding and Prismatic Ending wasn't as much needed as black already has good removals, but Reprieve was just like this great effect that was able to answer the Crushing Footfalls deck, which otherwise it's kind of a beating. Like that matchup is very tough now, and they also got this new card in Tishana's Tidebinder, so I am not so sure how much I love my coffers deck since this new addition to Modern in Tishana.
Interesting.
But
I hadn't realized it would be so
yeah,
impactful, but that kind of makes sense because at first I had thought that it wouldn't be a big deal for your deck because I mean it is a creature and all your deck is removal spells, but just a single trigger
yeah,
alone
yeah,
is like kind of a big deal.
exactly.
Okay.
Also on Karn, like you play Karn, and now it was just
Yeah.
subtlety and force of. I mean, now it was already subtlety and force of negation, and now it's also Tishana. So
Yeah, the problem is that Tishan
it
is
is
actually
a lot.
punishing. Like the other cards, I mean, if they're hard card subtlety, that's also punishing. But I think Tishana's Tidebinder is way more like legitimately punishing. If they force it, then you're just trading cards. That's fine for your deck that is very happy to trade cards. Your One Ring deck is always happy to trade 1 for 1, but Tidebinder seems like, yeah. Wow, this card was. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's
I thought it might be decent. I didn't realize it would be so impactful. Huh.
there are two mono black coffers in the top eight of this energy event, which was over 200 players.
Nice.
Oh, by the way, Anthony, do you know that in Chicago, the week before the PT, there's gonna be an energy in the same town, in the same city,
Yes, I think
in
it's really
Chicago.
awesome of them to do that for a lot of the people traveling to the event. I won't go, but
Uh,
I think it's
I
great for
will.
people to
I
go.
w-
All other deck
yeah, I
lists.
have planned. I've planned to go, so I'll be playing some
Yeah,
American
we have testing
events
commitments
before the
and can't
PT.
go. So, um,
Of course, of
yeah.
course, of course. Okay, another decklist that I feel like we should mention is the one from Isaac Bullwinkle, which is the progenitor of the Team Arenas that we know nowadays, with the main deck Mystical Dispute and also, all sort of interaction. And he has decided to drop the Rhinos and embrace the four color decks.
Is this
He
even
has
allowed?
also dropped.
Like, I feel like
Yeah, actually,
Isaac is the only person who ever wins with 4 color. I'm pretty sure. I've never seen anyone else win a match with this deck. But I don't think you're allowed to be champion of 2 decks at once. That just seems unreasonable.
And also, this is the old version with 4 Vran and 6, 4 the One Ring, 2 Time Warp, no Cascade, no Shardless. There is Up the Beanstalk as well, but yeah. So this is definitely a strange thing.
Is it strange? Why do you think it's
Give
strange?
it. Because I thought that the version with Shardless was better than the version with Vran and 6. I thought that Vran and 6 wasn't so good anymore in the format. There's just less combo decks, less control decks. So you don't need the game don't go as long for Brand 6 to be able to create the card advantage.
I think something
And
big is that the Time Warp Ren and 6 package means that you have some way of being a little bit more proactive. That might be important in some matchups, I imagine. It's possible that the format adapted enough to the Beanstalk stuff that this is actually good again. It's all I'm not entirely sure, but somewhat telling because I mean the Beanstalk deck has not been doing much winning, right? The Cascade, like the Cascade 4 color deck, just I
well,
don't know.
indeed,
Every week we
yeah,
look at the results and it's never anywhere, ever.
yeah. So this week there's a set of quite decent tournament on Magic Online, which are the Last Chance, Modern Last Chance. If you 5 you qualify to the MOX showcase. I was able to do that last season. Unfortunately, I won't be playing any this time. And the first one that came out sees two different people, Bernas Torres and Cordo Twin, both on the Cascade Beanstalk version. And I also saw Respect the Cat just tweeting that he 5-0'd with one. So maybe in the short tournament is still a good choice.
Oh my
Anthony.
god! I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty different to 5 a tournament than to do one with a 2-day tournament with a top 8 cut. But
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, I don't
Another thing,
actually know. I mean, it's possible that Isaac just preferred to play the older version. I know he mentioned that this
yeah.
is his favorite deck, which is something. I mean, framing it as doing well with your favorite deck as opposed to framing it as doing well with a very powerful deck is slightly different. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. No idea.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, for modern, I'm still like so undecided on what to play. I hope that my holiday will bring me some discover.
Maybe
Actually, can you play
maybe
discover
maybe
in
some
modern?
people will give you some input. I know there are a lot of modern fans out there who would love to tell you to play their deck, and they might have some reasonable arguments because they would know why those decks are good, right?
I'm looking at this top 25 of the Energy event, and to my great sadness, I don't see a single blue-red Murktide.
Sadness, but not surprise. You said, yep.
No, not surprised, unfortunately. I made the power ranking, Anthony, yesterday for the month of November for Channel Fireball, and I put Murktide in the 10th place.
Why is it so high?
No, come on.
Are you sure? It's not that unreasonable.
I know, it's not.
Maybe you can bring it back. You can be like Isaac with 4-color and keep playing your deck because you love it and somehow win matches. That would be cool.
For sure.
You can try it again.
Cool. That would be cool for sure.
Follow your heart, Mengu.
Yeah, I mean, last LMS I played Murktide.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually Murktide. I played the blue-red shell and it went well.
Yeah, you didn't do horribly, right? So...
Yeah, I didn't do horribly. Let's frame it this way. I went 20 place.
That's not bad. Yeah, you could play it again. Especially if you just don't know what you're going to play, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, if everything doesn't look good to you, you might as well play one that you're happy with, I guess. Like, I mean, that's not how I would normally approach a tournament, but I think it's what you might do, so there's no, like, why fight it,
Yeah, speaking of ways you approach a tournament, this weekend, Anthony, you played another challenge. What happens?
Oh, yeah.
The magical events for you.
The standard one, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided to give Golgari a go because I thought I saw so much blue-white mid-range in all of these standard events. And I thought I could build a deck to fight it. Which worked well in the showcase challenge before, which Stefan Schutz and I, Mental Misstep, and Lancemaster Jarvis Yu played my Golgari deck in that event. Stefan conceded the last round here, but he went 5-2 and then conceded the last round. But we built a version of Golgari that was meant to be good against blue-white, and I think it was good at doing that. We were pretty happy with the list, and I'll explain the changes in a moment. For me, I didn't really realize how quickly the Magic Online events adapt. So what happened is that Domain was the deck that actually triumphed, and people very quickly switched to it, and I didn't realize that was going to happen. So I played this Golgari deck, and I had warped it even more to fight blue-white based on these results, and that was just totally the wrong thing to do, because then I just played against Domain 4 times in a row, and my deck was just completely atrociously built against it. Like I was completely loaded up on interaction against tokens, and they played an Atraxa, and I was like, this one's on me, I think. So yeah, I just made a completely horrible metagame read, and that's something that can happen with Golgari, especially if you go too far with it. Like, I really went quite far with trying to adapt, but for example, the list that we submitted for the showcase challenge was a lot more just stock good stuff, I guess. Like, it was like a little bit metagame, but not too much in the way that I tried for very unsuccessfully for the next one. And maybe that's something, I don't know, I also tried to metagame very hard for a previous tournament and it backfired horrendously, so I should probably not do that so often. The biggest thing here, I think, is that Hulking Raptor was really, really impressive. I think that card is actually better than Blossoming Tortoise. Stefan said he wanted to try it, and I initially just missed it because I thought, well, I don't really want to play a ramp deck with this card, right? Because one of the biggest strengths of ramp strategies in general is that it's harder to interact with them, and so having your ramp piece be something that can be killed is pretty unappealing. Like, this card is ward, but it's going to be pretty tough, even if they trade 1-for-1 with it, if your whole plan is built around playing this card and then casting 7 drops off it. What we hadn't realized was that you don't have to like play a big spell if you have extra mana, right? You could just play 2 spells. So this card was really good for that reason. And you do have like other ways to spend your mana. Like, you have Restless Cottage that you're hovering over, and you can also have a couple of big spells in your deck like Nissa that don't act like 7 mana spells in terms of deck building, but do act like 7 mana spells in terms of casting out Hulking Raptor, in terms of the power you get out of it. So yeah, I was really impressed by the Raptor. I do think it's better than the Tortoise. It's just a better offensive threat, and it is more consistent, and it's also a little more flexible, I guess. The Sentinel really, really impressed me. This card is, wow, you can tell I love it because we put 4 of them, and that was a position only reserved for Mosswood Dreadnought before. And
Yeah,
wow,
so
yeah.
there's Sentinel in the Nameless City is the 3 mana for a 3/4 with Vigilance that when comes into play or attacks, you make a map token. This is something like cube level of play.
Yeah,
Like,
this card is unreal.
it really
It wouldn't
feels like it
surprise me.
does.
But I don't know anything about Cube, but this card is like so strong that I would be surprised if it wasn't good in Cube, which I assume is, you know, mostly good cards on rate.
Yeah, I feel like this does a lot. Like,
It
it's
does.
easy to play. It gives you 1 value, and then it's large. It can be
Yeah,
like
it gets
you
bigger
can
and
attack as a
bigger.
5/6 the next turn.
It gets bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
and it selects for cards, and the sizing like is sim. I mean, we mentioned I mentioned in my Golgari guide that the previous Sentinel. Why all the Sentinels 3 mana green 3/4? The Sentinel of Lost Law was also anyway. That card was like well sized against a lot of the format, but this one also has Vigilance, so it's like also good against the Wandering Emperor. Like, wow, this, you know, now this card can like block even a Subterranean Schooner, which is, you know, a pretty large 2-drop. Like,
Yeah, let's
man,
talk about that one because it was everywhere in the top 8.
yeah, this card
Subterranean
really broke
Schooner.
out.
This is the new vehicle, which I guess didn't quite break out in Pioneer yet, but it is everywhere
What do you mean yet?
in
You think it's going to?
what do you mean yet? No, I mean I remember reading a tweet that said that it was the new Smuggler's Copter, which is banned in Pioneer.
Oh my god.
So I said yet. I haven't tried it. I've never actually played a game with this card, but
Okay.
it does read very good, right? Yeah,
It's pretty good. I think maybe it's a little overrated.
Yeah.
I think it's a good card, but it's a little overrated. Like, it's seeing a
Yeah, this,
kind of incredible player, and people are kind of warping their decks around it in a way which I think is probably counterproductive. Like, I think you would rather just build a better deck that has some schooners than build your deck to use a schooner as well as possible. But it is very popular.
Yeah, this deck by Parrot, who came second in the Showcase Challenge, reminds me of the one that Alexander Hayne brewed for Worlds.
Yeah.
Like I remember talking to Hayne in the player party on the night before Worlds, and he said that he made up this new deck with Invasion of Segovia and Regal Bunicorn. Now that shell also picked up Spyglass Siren, which is the 1/1 flyer that makes a map, and Schooner.
Yeah,
And,
Siren's really nice.
Again,
with
came second in this.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like this is Alexane is gonna be happy to see this list.
I mean, this deck just gets to play a lot of good cards on rare and has low. I mean, it's also like reasonably well set up, especially post board against the domain decks. Like just playing a low curve and counter spells seems like it should be good. This deck doesn't have that many counter spells now. I see. I guess it does a Tishana's Tidebinder. Here it does something more specific. Like Tishana's Tidebinder is pretty broad in modern. In standard, it's quite a bit more specific in that it's very good against a domain deck and not that special against other ones. But domain is a deck well worth metagaming against, I think. So
yeah, I see that the winner with domain was playing 4 copies of Cavern of Souls, which naming Angel can make uncomfortable and fix the mana of both Archangel of Wrath.
Yeah, it's a
and
huge deal.
Atraxa, so.
Yeah. Archangel of Wrath is so good at
is a very
stabilizing
big
you, and
deal.
Atraxa is the thing you most want to do after stabilizing. So just even if it's only 2 angels, like Cavern is so good with them that it's completely worth it, especially because of the mana fixing, which is actually relevant for those fairly different. Like you have the Archangel has red in the cost, and the Atraxa is the other 4 colors, so makes sense.
Yeah, and one last deck that we should mention regarding the standard is the one that Mogged won the challenge the next day, which is this black-white mid-range deck that plays Deep Cavern Bat, has a protection spell for 2 mana. This is the new Kitsu Freebooter effect. And then you have a lot of mid-range cards like Wedding Announcement, Restoration of Enganjo, Virtue of Persistence, Shield Emperor, so like a pretty classic black-white, but I'm assuming this deck is bad against the domain, though.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, Mog said he specifically built this deck to fight the Esper decks, so that makes sense, I guess. He said he didn't like the blue cards as much in the mirror, so maybe there's not quite enough ways to progress if you pass with make this appear up. And the cards like Restoration of Igandra are particularly strong in grinding mirrors for sure. So yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting take, actually. Very interesting take. It's difficult to tell like how it would go against the other decks. I don't know if this is better or worse against Golgari, but I would assume it's better because of the same grindy cards, right? Like you have Restoration and Virtue.
Are you planning on playing a Starter Challenges weekend?
No, I think I have some other events on. Yeah, I have a pretty interesting event on the Saturday, which is definitely more casual. And then I have another. I'll play the Standard
What
Store
is
Championship.
it?
Oh, it's the format is Peasant Pioneer, so you have to build Pioneer decks that are $20 or less, but which is obviously a very casual format. But I'm playing it because they're giving away $1,500 in prizes, and the entry is free, by the way. It's very generous. There's a guy here in Australia, Pat Hawkins. He runs, I think, an auction business called Josh and Pat's MTG Auctions, and yeah, he does a lot of like nice stuff like this. But this one's wild. Like he's just throwing on a $1,500 event with a casual format, free entry. Very nice. We get a lot of good stuff here in Australia. You know, we're very lucky.
Is this the first time of this event, or is
Yeah, it's the
this
first time. Yeah,
not
he's
the
just
first time?
he's just putting it on. Yeah.
All right. So have you thought about a deck? Have you brewed up a
Yeah, I didn't put much thought
nice
into
little
it because
present?
I wanted to focus on helping people for the USRC. I didn't want this to distract me too much, so I just kind of submitted something random. But it was fun actually. Like like playing some of this, like it made me appreciate a little more the constraints that casual formats put on you sometimes. Like I've played Commander before, and like that was interesting to have to think about things in a completely different way. And the budget constraint was interesting. Like it's not something that I usually like to think about, but you know, for example, thinking about how like looking for weaker versions of cards because they fit inside the budget was an interesting exercise for sure. So it was
And
just fun
what
to
was
do.
the budget
Yeah.
like? Where did you find the like? What's the price for the budget? What do you check?
Oh, a TCG player. So
Okay.
yep.
All right. While we're in the topic of
Casual
more
formats.
casual format, yeah, let's shout out this event that I played last Saturday, which was the Italian Nationals pre-modern
Oh,
event
nice.
that actually had 85 players, so it was a quite sized event. And I went over to Bologna and played Elves. Actually, played a lot of this format with my friends locally here. This is the first time I go to a tournament, and yeah, obviously the format was the people were great, had a great time. There's actually a lot of foreigners that came from Spain and Austria, Germany, and etc. So it was cool. It was I got to play elves. I finished 5-2, good for 14th place. And yeah, not too much to say. I'm not gonna go too much in details of what happened, but I love that Magic has so many different ways to enjoy it, and
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
there's just so many players.
Yeah, 85
So
players for like
so many
a format
people.
like this is like that's impressive. I mean, it's Italy. Like all your events are like
Yeah,
massive and somehow involve a lunch break with catering, but you know it's still cool that you have
yeah,
lots
I
of
got
players.
I
Yeah.
got yeah, I posted a lot of food pictures definitely over the weekend. I mean, like the week before, I played 125 vintage tournament and then a 85 people pre-modern tournament. So definitely there is, a lot of old players waiting to play their old cards, like Chaos
I mean,
Chrono and
the deck
so
that's an aesthetically pretty cool deck. Yeah,
yeah, the
just looks
aesthetic.
nice.
Although you know that you don't have to follow the aesthetics
Also, are you
rules,
allowed to
like you can
play
actually
like?
play it.
Are you allowed to like have your forest be
Yes.
like half Doctor Who basics and like half M15 basics? That would be hilarious. You should do that. Can
Yeah,
you do that for me?
I've actually have a good friend of mine who plays pre-modern only, and he's just like the cheapest version of every card. So he's like 10th edition's Hypnotic Spectre,
Yeah,
Dominaria Remastered, Source of
let's
Plowshares,
go.
and I tried to say like, come on, like Hypnotic Spectre revised. And
Nah,
he's
I'm on
like
your
one
friend's side.
euro,
Your friend's great. That's you should be more like him.
and he's like, oh no, I don't care. And it's like, I'm over here, just playing this format mostly because the cards look good.
Not for him. Guy just
But
wants to
yeah,
play some games. I
yeah,
love it.
that is true. Yeah, he came ninth, unfortunately,
See,
in
he did
this
better than you. See? Can't
yeah,
argue with
for sure.
results.
Yeah, that is. Another very good friend of mine made the top 8 with green white deck with Armageddon, 3 copies of Armageddon, which is a pretty brutal card. Dude.
You're not
Okay,
selling me on this format, man.
yeah. Yeah. All right, I think it's time to wrap it up, Anthony. What do you say?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Of course, this was Competitive Magic with the Carnies, episode 60. Next week, I will not be with you. I will leave you to Javier and Anthony. I hope you guys will have a great episode, and I look forward to listening to it on my flight back home
Nice.
a few days later.
Yep, we definitely won't
And yeah.
make fun of you while you're gone. I promise.
Yeah, so if you have to talk about four color, remember that its results vary based on the number of rounds in the
I
tournament.
mean, we agree. We do agree on that point. Its results do vary based on the number of rounds in the tournament.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Anthony. I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Adios.